Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization.
As we bring another remarkable year to a close, we are pleased to welcome you to the Business of Cleaning Podcast 2025 Best of episode. This special edition highlights the most impactful conversations, standout guests, and meaningful topics that shaped our discussions throughout the year. It is a reflection of the insights, innovation, and industry leadership that continues to influence the commercial cleaning world. With the Christmas season upon us, we extend our sincerest appreciation for your continued support, engagement, and loyalty. Your commitment to learning and growing with us has helped make this year truly significant. Thank you for being part of our community and for contributing to an exceptional 2025. We look forward to bringing you even more stories, perspectives, and industry voices throughout 2026. The best is still ahead. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from everyone at Janitorial Manager.
We focus on continuous training, clear communication, and set measurable goals. We emphasize the importance of quality through regular inspections. We provide incentives for exceptional performance. We ensure our team feels valued. We empower our staff with the right tools, and recognizing their efforts are key to maintaining high standards. Like our staff, sometimes it's a matter of just connecting to the human being, right? Because here's the truth. Majority of my staff, and I would say 99.9% of my staff, are from countries all over the world, right? You have Nicaragua, you have Nepal, you got Jamaica, you have Guyana, you have Grenada, you have India, you have Honduras, you have Costa Rica. Oh man, I could keep going on, man. I have at least 15 or 20 different nationalities here, right? And here's the truth. How do I empower and motivate my staff? Well, the truth is, I say it sometimes when someone's performance is down, it's not because they don't want to do the work. These folks have left their families from far away and they've come here to seek a better life, right? Which is the same thing that my mom did, right? So for me, how do I train and motivate them? I sit with them, we say, hey, listen, we get it, your performance has dropped recently. What's going on? And some of them will tell you, hey, I'm homesick. Hey, I have some trouble back home. My mom's sick. She has cancer. She's ill. She needs some money. And this is where we step in. We say, hey, listen, I can't lend you all the money, but I will absolutely lend you some money on a 0% interest loan. Right? And you can get some of that money and you work hard, you take care of us, we will take care of you. And as a result, man, our staff, we're a family. We stick together, and sometimes it's hard to get people to understand that message because some of them have never really truly experienced love in the workplace. So trying to get that message across is extremely difficult. Some of them are feral. I love them, but it's the truth. Some of them are feral. And we have to have some patience in working with them. In saying all of that, I don't want you to think that they get a pass if they don't perform and stuff or whatever. We say to them, hey, the most important thing is that we make sure that this wheel keeps spinning. Because if it doesn't, the 5 people that we take care of back home, we're not going to be able to, to do that.
Right.
So yeah, that's our approach. People fear what they don't understand. Yes. And even sometimes you understand it and you still fear it. But, generally people fear what they don't understand. And so a lot of this adopting new technology, it comes with challenges. Particularly helping the staff feel prepared and comfortable is like one of the biggest challenges. You as the operator could feel like, oh, this is easy and I could just do that. And I've been there. I feel like, everybody has my brain and they can just be able to overcome these challenges and switch gears and open another tab and create a new skill now. But this is not everyone. And Not everyone the way that you do it, right? Not everyone will do it the way that I do it. So for me, I realized that they needed better tools and support to digest the changes. And we just committed to providing phones and data plans for all of our staff. And this enables easy communication, access to janitorial managers' features. While it added overhead costs, it showed our commitment to becoming a more data-driven business while prioritizing our employees' needs. Listening to their concerns and involving them in the process was key to finding a resolution and fostering trust. Because the truth is, um, technology is going to constantly be changing. The technological sea level is constantly rising. It's
Yes,
going
it
up.
is.
And the cleaners are considered low socioeconomic standard individuals, right? Cleaning does not make them a whole lot of money that they could buy Mercedes Benz and all sorts of luxuries, right? However, whereas we may not think that it's that big of a deal, every hour of work counts for them. So instead of putting the burden on them to always have data plans on their phones and have good phones that could take pictures and use the applications, we just decided, hey, listen, we're going to provide every single one of you with phones and data plans. And this is going to help you to communicate. So you don't have to think about having data, whether you have data or Wi-Fi. No, you can communicate with us anytime. And this is a major deal. This is something often overlooked. And I know a lot of companies don't want to take this on because they just think about overhead. But in the grand scheme of thing, what's a couple $1,000s to your bottom line
Hmm.
when your staff are all sorted out? That's how I look at it. My advice would be, first and foremost, if you're an operator, I mean, you have a more disposable income, get you a coach, right? And I'm biased, so get you an accomplishment coaching coach, right? And together work with your coach on a plan to create the ideal vision of what you want. Because sometimes you can't see your stuff,
Hmm.
right? And we all have stuff. We have traumas, we have experiences that influence the way that we conduct ourselves and even the way that we interact with other people. So some owners they talk down to their staff and they belittle their staff and there's no privacy. So those staff, it's hard for them to actually be in relationship with them, right? And I have it that if you are in relationship with your staff and you can have that honest conversation like, hey guys, we're all working as one here. We're all part of a team, and this is what I expect from you. And you ask them, what do you expect from me? Well, they're expecting to work in a place that fosters respect, fosters them some growth, right?
Hmm.
And the big one, love, to feel some love. It's not all a transactional relationship, man.
Hmm.
Everyone is on this transactional vibes, and it's like you can't be transactional with human beings. Even if you go to the grocery store, say hello. How are you doing? You see the cleaner, or maybe you're not the owner of the company, but you see the cleaner, man, just say hello, hey, how you
Hmm.
doing? How was your Christmas? How was the New
Yeah.
Year? Wish them some good time. You have no idea how much that impacts someone's
Hmm.
entire day and week. And for them to
Yeah.
get that from the company that they work with, that to me is like the biggest, most awesome, like coming together. These ingredients can create a successful business, in my opinion.
I think there are pros and cons with anything in business. For instance, for me, the pro was I didn't have the equipment, I didn't have the
Hmm.
capability to do the job, so he made it easier for me, right? I think there are things that you could do in this business, and it will be profitable if you subcontract it. I think you can also develop a business where you become a one-stop shop for your clients and offer different things that a building service contractor does or what a building would need in maintenance aspect. So whether it be electrical, whether it be painting, whether it be minor construction, and you could encompass all those things under one umbrella and you could subcontract those key things to specific people who are qualified and are the experts in whatever area it is. So whether it be you may not be an expert in painting, but you could foster relationships with a
Hmm.
excellent paint contractor who would come to do those jobs under your business. You pay them what they charge, and you put a markup to the other business so that you get that profit. And you get that profit without actually doing anything more than putting the bridging the gap together. They wrote about me, and I was contacted by a business manager for a bank locally, and he reached out because of that. And he was like, "Hey, I want you guys to join the bank and come with us and whatnot." I told him, I said, "Listen, I I am already with your bank, right?" And he said, "Well, hey, I want you to come to our unit, right? I can help you with this and that and whatnot." And funny enough, fast forward, they granted me an overdraft that I was not able to get without his help, right?
Wow.
And that overdraft came in, let's say it came in today. Within 5 days of that overdraft coming in, I utilized probably like 35% of the overdraft. And if I didn't get that overdraft at that particular time, I don't know how I would have paid salaries that month, right?
Wow.
Really and truly, I don't know how, because things grew so quickly. And I would say it is divine intervention. Everything works itself out because he called me because of that article. That article came out. I didn't even expect that, right? And mind you, I was actually trying to get the overdraft before, and I was getting turned down and whatnot. But he was sent by God, divine intervention again, and everything happened like that. Social media, I think in any business right now is 100% beneficial and useful. I mean, it is the way the world is going. It gives you good visibility, it gives good brand awareness, and I mean, it's going to be hard for any business owner because we over critique ourselves. We may be a bit shy on camera, and we wonder what Tom or Harry is gonna say about us. But I think we need to come out of our comfort zones and basically just do it. It usually is a challenge to figure out what to say, what content to produce, and how to bring your story across. But I mean, the good thing is just start, and you're gonna find your way. You're gonna find your way. Usually, I think you need to figure out what your target audience likes. So, for instance, we used to try doing the informative content, right? Now, I'm not too sure how the American audience is for informative, cleaning, janitorial based content. But I realized that was not working in Trinidad, right? Our
Same
country,
thing. Same thing here.
well, country, we are not very serious about things, right? And I realized people like the funny content. So what we do, we are hitting you with so much funny content that is relatable because we're doing like office style stuff to cater to the B2B, because our content is funny comedic stuff that happens in an office. So
Right.
my thought process is you're going to see this and this is going to be relatable to you. So you're going to like it, you're going to engage, you're going to share, you're going to favorite it, and it's going to help our following go up and whatnot. And then we're going to stick in the educational stuff in between so that you also see the educational aspect. So whoever is interested in the educational aspect, they're going to engage to that. And who's wants the funny stuff, they're going to engage to that.
Honestly, I didn't grow up dreaming about running a cleaning company. But what I did want was that control over my future, that control over my paycheck, that control over my calendar. I think that's a big one. And when I started looking at industries where I could make an impact, cleaning stood out only because I vividly remember in my teenage years, I always had a clean room. My mom can vouch for this. Mom, if you're listening to this episode, you can vouch for this. My spot was nice and clean. My brother's spots and sister's room was always disorganized and messy because I always took pride in presenting myself in a clean, fashionable way and resetting the room. And there's one specific moment that I remember where it was down on my luck. It was at a point in my time where I was unemployed. I just ended a fairly toxic relationship. And coming out of that, I got home one night. I looked around and I'm like, this place is spotless. That's where the name came from.
Yes.
And I just saw an opportunity to create something different in my world, something that could be both profitable and purpose driven. Purpose driven is, hey, I'm good at this. I get to do this more often, and profitable because, as we all know, the growing market, the growing industry of the cleaning realm, I should say. So it was not easy. And a lot of people might say, well, what's that golden ticket? What's that one thing I need to know in my life that's going to get me to the next thing? And of course, for everyone, it's different. I'm not going to lie, that first year was tough because I was using Craigslist. I was using Craigslist to advertise my residential cleaning services. So I started off in homes, and I worked crazy hours. I worked sometimes there was one time I did 4 homes in a day. I don't recommend that. And so I took everything upon myself because it was, me, myself, and I. That's all I had. But it was this constant push forward despite the doubts. And here's the thing: every setback was and is a lesson. And so instead of focusing on what I didn't have, I didn't have employees, I didn't have a consistent schedule, I didn't have this, that, and the other. I looked at what I was building, and I think that right there really allowed me to see the positive. Even with just, that $10,000 in profit, I had a foundation. I had something I could build off of. And I told myself, even though there was a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, if I can get through this, I can figure out how to scale it, because it's that metric, that stepping stone. And it was all about mindset, focusing on growth and not just the immediate results. So your clients can really tell when you genuinely care about them. It's like I said, we don't just clean buildings. We solve problems. We save lives. We help kids learn. We provide support to teachers. Like, it's not just about cleaning. It's building that trust and just compounding on that. And that's why we have long-term relationships with our clients, because they know that we're invested in their success, not just collecting a check. And it boils down to it turns into a relationship. It turns into that partnership instead of a transaction. And as I mentioned you a couple weeks ago, the transactions happen on your phone through your banking app. That's a transaction. A relationship, a partnership happens in that service industry. And I think with that mindset, that is what has kept clients with us for all that period of time, because we're in this together. Like, we're a part of their team. I even walk into some of the buildings, hey team, and it's like it's my client, but they know that, oh no, you're right, he's right. We are a team in this. So that really helped us a lot. I love it when employees don't know that I'm the owner. I believe titles can create barriers. Titles can create barriers, and I want my employees to see me as someone who's in the trenches with them, someone who's a part of the team, someone who has leveled that playing field and got rid of the titles, not just boss. And so when people know you care about them as a person, they perform better, they stay longer, they feel more connected to the company. Of course, if I have to step in as the owner, it's like, okay, by the way,
hats.
Jake, I'm the owner. That was totally uncalled for, or whatever the situation calls for. But allowing them to see, hey, that's Nate, he's part of the team, to me is huge. Just because in so many organizations, when people are coming into our company, they know title happy people. Hey, I'm the boss here, I'm the owner, go do this, go take care of that. And I don't want that relationship. And that's why the people who do know that I'm employees, or the employees that do know that I'm the owner, I have a great relationship with my leadership team that then they will step in place of me, if that makes sense, and continue to maintain that relationship. Because if Nate steps in, they know that I'm the owner. Oh, now I really got to shape up, or I'm going to get shipped out. So yeah, it's fun having them not know that I'm the owner, because again, the titles can create those barriers in that relationship, and then they don't open up to you. Then they're not honest with how they're doing. Then they're not, then they're not being
Authentic.
It does not be authentic. There's the word. Thank you.
So when you're incorporating plugins to your website, make sure that you're filling out the proper information. So if you have a cleaning company, let's say in Ohio, you're going to be able to there's things called meta information. So you got meta titles, meta descriptions, meta keywords. The key is, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. They stuff the same 3 keywords in the meta title, meta keywords, meta description. The meta title and the meta description work in unison, so you don't need to repeat keywords. So you could say, that, and stop using the word the best, because
Right.
and don't use home, because that makes you look, when Google's searching all these places that say home, makes it look like you're a real estate company. Get that out of there. Yes, it is your home page, but it doesn't need to be in your meta description or title. So, Ohio carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaner. Keep it simple, keep it basic. In your description, give people more information about what it is that you do. You could put your name down, you could put your phone number in there, but realize that when you're adding more things, now you're ranking for more words.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only using, carpet cleaner, carpet cleaning, it's the same, okay? And I've seen this so many times that the first thing I do is just go in there and change all the keywords, and now all of a sudden they're ranking. And you get these emails where you get these calls, from some foreign land. We'll rank you for your 3 best keywords. And all the sites that I'm working on are ranking for 100 keywords now, because I've learned to make things work in unison. And so you have these pages at home, service, and here's the thing: don't just have a service page that lists all your services. Create a page for everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do carpet cleaning, that's a separate page. Upholstery cleaning, separate page. Tile cleaning, separate page. And then those get optimized. So one of the things that I like to do is put a form on every single page. The reason I do that is that if your page is optimized correctly, somebody might be searching tile cleaning and your main page may not show up, but it'll land on that tile cleaning.
Yeah.
And so if there is a form that you can fill out your name, address, phone number right to that page, now you've captured your client. And so you keep it simple, but every single service needs to have a form where people can fill out, or a phone number somewhere. I've seen so many service websites where there's no phone number, and it just requires you to fill out a form.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people will fill out a form, but you really want them to call you. And that's, I think we forget about that. We forget, we have all this technology, where we can put people in funnels and do this and do that. Most people just want to call. They want a human to talk to. Well, the AI is really coming on strong. And, where we used to optimize for Google, changed to optimize your website for human. But now, things are changing, and things need to be optimized for AI search. When I was back in October, I was in France for 2 weeks. And in between airports, a gal had come up to me because I was in line to get a Dunkin' Donut coffee. And she's using her phone. She asked me a question about some donut. She wasn't using Google. She was using ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
to find, the best donut that she was going to choose from. And so in Europe, a lot of people have already switched out of Google into, AI search. So in our quest to dominate our websites, we have to take into account not only old SEO practices like the meta tags, but we have to incorporate that all the content that we have on our page is written for a human first and foremost. So if you have a blog post and it sounds very machine written, very stale, very bland, take your AI if you are using one and say, look, I want this written in, my personality, and I want it to say this, this, and this. And the AI will kick out a blog post that resonates like you would. And if you have a trouble with that, record something on video. Have the AI train it off your video. Now it sounds like you.
The first place I attacked was the structure of the company. I knew that I was learning the business and I couldn't manage the people in the field. The six, even only six, I couldn't grow that and manage that without some help. So I was very fortunate in that I didn't take a salary for the first 6 to 8 months that I owned the business. And I instead brought in a manager. Okay, right away, month 3, I think I had the manager, and she helped. She had previously owned a cleaning business in Maryland. She had moved to Florida. So I brought her on board as a cleaner and then quickly promoted her to a manager. And she took care of the field staff. She took care of any complaints. She took care of the training, which freed up my time.
Yeah.
To move forward and plan and organize and grow the business. I would say the younger group, the 30s to by the time they're in their 50s and have worked in business, they pretty much understand the importance of delegating. They aren't necessarily good at it and don't necessarily like it, but they know that they need to do it. They tend to be a little more set in their ways. Whereas the younger entrepreneur is like the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed little squirrel wants to learn everything, and that they typically want to learn. They just don't have the experience.
Right.
So, but they're willing to try new things. It's interesting because the people that are startup clients, okay, are a little more demanding because you have to teach them more. But they are the ones that get most excited. I like to connect and engage with my clients. We have our weekly phone calls or so, but then there's emailing that goes on in between, because when they're excited about something, they land an account, they hire that right person. I want to get on board and get excited with them about it. I like to engage with them and make them feel they have a partner in their journey. And that's the satisfaction that I get out of it. And they will typically try whatever ideas you send their way. Let's try this, let's try that. Because they don't really know whether that's going to work or not, so they're more willing. Whereas the more experienced client might be a little hesitant. And they may say, well, I tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work, so I'm not going to try it today. So convincing them that, okay, this 15 years later, let's give this a try.
Right.
So it's just a little bit different. And then I do a lot of work with turnarounds, companies that are in trouble, and they come to me and they're not making profit. They've got terrible staffing problems, which a lot of people do right now. And how do we fix the problem? So, it's a couple of different kinds of coaching that require different skills. Keen attention to their financials and budgeting. I would say probably 70% of my clients before I worked with them never did a budget. They never did an annual budget. A good 40% are not comfortable with a profit and loss statement. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs there that are flying blind, okay, just going by the seat of their pants and hoping that it's going to turn out okay.
Oh,
And that's not something that's going to sustain a business long term. I mean, you really need to have budgeting in place. And my belief is that a budgeting is a live document and it needs to be reviewed and adjusted as a year goes on. But a budget for revenue, a budget for expenses, is paramount to your success. And then monitoring the financials when you're a startup, I recommend monitoring your financial reports, your P&L and your cash
Mhm.
flow report at least every week. Once you're a little more established after the first year, then you can back off and do it monthly. But your financials should be available to you at the click of a button. Whether you use QuickBooks or another software,
right.
you should have them up to date so that at any given time, I, as a coach, could call and say, what do you have in so far for the month? How is the profit looking for the month? And I ought to be able to get an answer.
So when we're on this tour with the Detroit Youth Choir, myself, like you said, we went into a room and the tour host was like, "Oh, cleaning company is terrible. I apologize. We have to clean up after them." First thing that comes to my mind is take advantage of the inches around you.
Absolutely.
I have a cleaning company. And she said, "Oh, you do?" I said, yes, I do. But, and in all actuality, like you say, it was a little white lie, but I've been cleaning since I was about
Right.
7, 8 years old. I come up in an era where, Tuesday is bathrooms, Wednesday is
Mhm.
living rooms, Thursday is kitchen. And the way my mother worked is if she gets home off work at 12:30 at night from working a 10-hour shift and your chores ain't done, oh, you're going to get that
You
butt.
get woke up.
Yeah, you're going to get woke
Yeah.
up. Say that. You're going to get woke up and it ain't going to be nice. And then she's going to make you do your job right then and there. So, and we talking about cleaning floorboards, cleaning walls on Sundays. So I've always been a cleaner. So the next thing they asked me was, "Hey, give us a proposal on this cleaning job that we have." I didn't know anything about writing proposals for
Yeah.
corporate contracts or, workman's comp and insurance and supplies and have to factor all of that in. I didn't know anything about this. My first thought was go straight to YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to Google. Let's figure out the pricing and how to do the markup for that. And what I was seeing was like unbelievable to me. I didn't believe that companies were out here paying this much for cleaning. So I would market on Facebook, Instagram, and a church hit me up around, now we're into like February, end of February,
Yeah.
March. A church hits me up and say, "Hey, can you come clean our church?" Because we all know that churches have to live off their
Congregation.
congregation and
Absolutely.
tithes. I said, most definitely, I'll come do a walkthrough. Once again, I still don't know how to price it. But in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'll charge them $1,500 after I do the walkthrough. I'm doing the walkthrough. I'm acting like I'm pricing
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, this and that. You got 3 bathrooms. You got floorboards. You got this. You got click lock. So I told her, hey, what about 1,500? She said, can you come tomorrow? My mind was like, she went for it.
Yeah.
She went for it. I ended up taking this job. I had $7. I borrowed $20 from one of my friends, and I went and got $27 worth of cleaning products. We took those $27 because it was all we had. I had a fogger already, and it was just the chemicals that I had to put into the fogger. So I went in there, we fogged it all out, wiped the knobs, the door handles, cleaned the glass, cleaned the pews, cleaned everything that we're supposed to clean, everything behind anything that was in that church got clean. Halfway through that job, they recommended me for another job. Don't be afraid of the square footage. If you think about it, this contract with Ford Motor Company was 380,000 square feet. But we're not cleaning all 380.
Right.
We're cleaning the bathrooms, we're cleaning the offices, we're cleaning the workstations. So focus on the job that you're supposed to do, not the size, not the square footage of the whole building. because it can be, overwhelming if you let it.
Mhm.
And also go in there with some confidence. Have a pre-plan, far as systems is really the main thing. And incorporate systems into your job. If it's invoicing, you should be using an invoice system. You should be using a timekeeping system. You should also be using a GPS system that's connected to your timekeeping system for your employees who are checking in and out. So you can know when they're there, and then also when you're training, one thing I had mistakes I was making early on this job was I was under training the people. I was telling them, oh man, all you got to do is just do the bathrooms, do this and do that. No, we overtrain now, so they expect the most.
Yeah.
So when something comes up, they don't want to say, oh man, you didn't tell me about that. You didn't say, you just told me I had to do bathrooms, floors on Mondays, garbage every day. But we have to go over and beyond. Some days we're cleaning walls, some days we're, buffing and polishing floors. So you want to overtrain. So whenever it comes to place, they're not expecting like, oh, this is just, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that God blessed me to be a blessing. Where I grew up at, like I said, I've never been in prison, but everybody around me, family members, friends, neighbors, at some sort of time they're going to prison growing up. And then I also felt like, everybody deserves a second chance, so that's one of my biggest biggest things is giving everybody a second chance, regardless of what you did and how you got to this point where you're at right now.
Mhm.
And when you come to me, you have a clean slate. I tell everybody when I hire you, I give you a piece of rope so you can hang yourself, because I don't judge you for anything that you've done in the past, any, color, creed, sexuality. That does not matter to me as long as you can do the job. So I'm gonna walk you through Ford Field because it's the biggest one. The first job is called pickers. So Ford Field, we'll have to have at least 125 people to work. So we'll have 40 on one side, 40 on the other side, and everybody gets 2 rows. I'll get the row that I'm standing in and the row above me. And I have to get all the trash, the big trash, out of the aisles. And they're walking together. They'll start like on one end back to back, and then they'll walk around and meet each other on the other end of the concourse. So their job is called pickers. They're walking through the seats, the aisles, picking all the trash up, the cups, and then we have to separate it because this is a green building. So any type of recyclables have to go in one bag, trash goes in another. The next thing is once they're done with their bag, instead of having them run from that aisle to the top of the concourse, we have something called a trash runner. These are mostly young men between the ages of 18 to about 24, 25, or someone who wants to get in shape. He stands at the top of the concourse. He waits for that person in that aisle to tie the bag up and put it in the aisle. He's running down, getting those bags, and he's running back upstairs. The second job is the trash runner. He walks around with a gondola, and he's picking up all the trash, the recyclables. He's taking the cardboard, the trash out the bathroom, and then also the bags that come to the top. Now that job right there between the picker, the trash runner, and the gondola guy, at the most at Ford Field, it should not take no more than 4 hours. If it's a 4 hour, that means it was a sellout playoff game,
Right.
Standing room only. That should be no more than 4 hours. After and then I'm talking about the first level, second level, and the third level, because there's 3 levels.
Right.
So that should take about 4 hours. The second job is the leaf blowers. Now, any of the trash that the pickers didn't come and get, the leaf blowers are coming through there, and we have them like on an angle, and they're just blowing all the trash down to the first row.
Mm-hmm.
Once they blow it down to the first row, we have a few ladies. That should take maybe, like I said, also 2 hours, 2.5 hours, to say 3 hours. After that, we'll have a group of ladies come in and sweep up all the trash that they blew down to the first floor, first level. pick up the peanuts, straws, usually straws, peanuts, tops of water bottles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sweep all that up. And then the last job at the same simultaneously, we have the sweets. So we have a group that's doing the sweets while the pickers are down there. And then that same group, we have at least one person do the glass. Now the glass is very, very, you have to make sure the glass is clean because you have people who are paying $150,000 for a year, and they don't want to walk in there and they see watermarks or squidges on the glass. So in all actuality, it's about a 10-hour job.
So I was serving at a local church, and my dad got sick, and so it changed just the trajectory of life for all of us, and decided I was going to try and make a difference and help them to finish strong in life. And so the church that I was serving at, there was a couple there that were getting ready to retire, and their son-in-law happened to work with me at the church. And long story short, they wanted to retire and get out, and so they had a small janitorial business doing about $200,000 a year with 10 or 12 employees, and we were able to put an agreement together to purchase that, and it gave me the opportunity to have a foundation, somewhat of a foundation, to be able to begin and grow a janitorial business. So while I was in ministry, probably 10 years of that, I was responsible for a lot of the facilities of a church and school, and also I already had enough experience with the facilities management side of it to know that, okay, I think this is something I could probably do. So we made that transition in 2006 and 7, something. Saying yes to too many things. I never wanted to say no. And so it didn't hurt me to say yes. It made me a better person. But the downside was, I was working 16, 18-hour days to begin with. And so, but sometimes as a young entrepreneur, you're just really, you want to win and you want to do things right. And you're so, you put your head on the pillow at night, you're like, I don't have enough money to make it, the next week. And tomorrow the phone calls and you're a cleaning company and, they're asking you to pave a parking lot and you're like, yes, and you have no clue, So I think there was probably, for me, that was probably the number one thing, was not identifying exactly who we wanted to be as an organization and who we wanted to service and keep inside those guardrails. I was trying to be all things to all people, and it was a little bit difficult to keep all those things in the air and keep it moving. So I will tell you, it all depends on what it is. We try to make ourselves very sticky with our customers. Just an example, walking a medical building with one of our larger customers, and we were supposed to be doing an inspection, but they were so preoccupied with a lab that needed a refrigerator. And this guy was trying to walk with me and get a hold of somebody. I said, hey, hang on just a second. What kind of refrigerator do you need? He said, well, I need this. Why? I'm like, well, let me make a phone call real quick. And so I called a friend that works at one of the appliance centers here, industrial appliances. And I said, hey, could you take care of this for them? And he said, sure, I'll have it there this afternoon. Right. And so that's the kind of customer service. I took a problem off of his plate. And so when you talk about doing things that you want, that a customer might want for free, it's something you just have to weigh, depending on how much value you put into offering stuff like that or agreeing to stuff like that. But there were many times, Tim, where I just said, hey, look, I kind of would put it back on them in a nice way. I was like, your boss wouldn't want you to do this for free, would he?
Right.
And they said, well, no. I'm like, well, then the expectation can't be. Now, if it's a building owner, or, the person that owns the building, and it's something that's, minuscule or whatever, I may knock it out. I'm not going to, and I knew in the back of my mind what my profit margin was in pretty much every building or where I was. But that being said, there's been some customers out there that I fired as well because they wanted me to do stuff for free all the time, and I'm like, I just can't. We're not a good fit anymore
Right.
because I'm at 6%, 7% profit, and you keep, hey, can you hit that spot in the carpet, Tuesday night, and I go in and the whole hallway is trashed, and then you want me to hit one spot, you're gonna make it look
Right.
worse. So there are some customers out there that if they're not a good fit, don't be afraid to cut ties. It's hard to do. Man, is it hard to do. But I would, I would just always weigh those things depending on the situation and what it would, what it would entail. But most of the time I would push back enough to say, hey, I'm gonna be as tight as I can with it, but I have to charge you because I'm paying.
Right.
This business is labor, it's
Mhm.
labor. And so you have to keep that in mind. So there's a lot of the people that I know that are coming in from the residential side are very successful on the residential side. And I'm not talking $500,000. I'm talking multi-million dollar companies that, making $4 or $5 million who want to expand into the commercial side.
Right.
I think the biggest hurdle for most of them is pricing, and understand it's about volume and lower pricing than is about, $400 a house, for once a month or twice a
Right.
month, whatever it is. So um, I think that's the biggest hurdle is getting the pricing. But I think there's this sense of I've accomplished here. I'm doing really well here. And I think I can add this as another income, a revenue and revenue stream. And I think it can be done, and I think we're having some good success helping people with that transition. But it is, I think, probably the hardest piece is they'll go out and they'll call me and say, I don't understand why am I not getting this bid. I'm like, well, where did you land pricing wise? I was double everybody else. Like, okay, well, here, let's work on the spreadsheet. Let me show you.
Mhm.
And a lot of times the pushback is that's not enough money. I'm like, but it's I'm trying to help them understand it's the same amount of money because it's volume. They're like, well,
Yeah.
you're only making 8 to 10%. I'm making 50 to 75% over here. I'm like, but at this volume, 10% is just as much or probably more than that. So that's a tough, trying to get their head around that can be tough. But I know I'm thinking of two, or we're really one specifically that I've worked with that is having great success in that transition. And she's very talented, very driven, and I think they're going to do pretty well in that transition. So.
For those of us, there's a group of us who can really operate well at that elevated, heightened, like I don't want to call it panic level, but like it's happening level. So I'm
Right.
going to give you a few stories that scared the crap out of me. I had the honor and privilege of being an executive producer on one episode of Oprah's Favorite Things. Okay. It like really doesn't get any better than that in your career, right? So, but as I said, live is not my it's not my specialty. No one's
Mhm.
hiring me because I was a live producer, but the company who was producing this trusted me, knew me, and sure I could do the job. So we're sitting there, and when you're live, when live to tape in this case, like
Yeah.
every minute counts, like literally every minute counts. You do not want to rush yourself. And the executive producer came in and said, she's ready to go. We're starting now. She meaning Oprah.
Mhm.
And like, I was like, I remember having a lump in my throat, a pit in my stomach. And I mentally told myself, fasten your seatbelt. Let's go. It was
Right.
might have been one of the scariest moments, and they count down and they're in it. And product placement is extremely important there. And
Yeah.
Oprah's got to say the names of her sponsors. And it was like
Absolutely.
the Microsoft Surface was coming out, and the teleprompter went down, or the Chiron where you write
Yeah.
what it
Yep.
is. And the guy next to me panicked. He literally had a panic. And then the person to the left of me, and I had to sit calm and cool as a cucumber. It's like, I don't know how to spell elliptical. It was for another thing. And I just looked at him. I said, sound it out. It will be okay. and we got through it. It was great. Everything was amazing, but I'll never forget in those moments, like I was either going to die horribly or come out a hero. Unfortunately, I came out a hero on that one. So I'm going to tell you two moments here stand out. One of them was I was pregnant with my second son, and I was producing Real Housewives of Atlanta, and it was season one. And again, what an experience, right? An incredible opportunity. And you work your whole career to have moments like
Mhm.
this, a hit show, to be part of something bigger than who you are, but to be part of a movement. It's really
Yeah.
incredible. So we knew the show was being received, incredibly well. Bravo loved it. Viewership was up. Season two was picked up. But I was pregnant with my second son. At this point, my husband, we had decided he wanted to do his own entrepreneurial journey, and he left working for corporate America to buy a small cleaning company in Florida. He was commuting back and forth. And we were like, what are we doing? You know? At some point, you have to put your family first and the
Yeah.
strain of it all. And we had a very meaningful conversation about it. He said, if you want to stay here and do this and you want to keep going, like I'll support you. I can't buy this company and this will be a type of life we have. And that didn't sit well with me. I
Mhm.
said, like, that's very selfish and is ultimately, shows come and go. And while it was an incredible opportunity and I work for the most amazing people, incredible company, I went in and I said, I have to resign. And they from season two, we was about to start, and they were like, "What?"
You got a hit, right?
I was like, "No, we're going to Florida and we're starting a commercial cleaning company. That is truth." So everyone thought I was really off my rocker at
Mhm.
that point. So that was like the first big, but when we got down to Florida and we had we'll talk about this more in a bit, but essentially I stayed working in television and it was after really producing Airport 24/7 for Travel Channel, another amazing experience. Like I got to work with TSA and CBP and in the tower and wow, what an amazing experience. But I would bring to my kids to preschool in the morning and I wouldn't see them until the next morning. Um, and that was really, really tough. And my husband said to me, why are you working so hard to make other people money? What about our family? What about building something for us and our business? Mark, is a CPA by training. He's a numbers guy. So why would we hire a CFO when he could do his accounting and the finances for the company? And Mark has a master's in taxation. Why would we hire an accounting firm to do our taxes if Mark can do them? I think you get to a certain point where sure, I can do all these things, but is that really where my time should be? Or should
Yeah.
my time be forward facing with customers? Should my time be looking at strategy and growth of the company? There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. That's universal, no matter who
Mhm.
you are. If you're Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Shari Cedar, or, dude first starting out.
Mhm.
And you have to know how to manage that and when to hire and when to bring on that CFO or a controller. And, that goes for HR, that goes for area managers, that goes for a sales team. Okay, so I love a structure. I love a structure. My TV world, there's a pre-production, production, and post-production,
Mhm.
right? Pre-production, you're doing everything up front. You get your systems, you're hiring, your setup. Your production is when you're making the show, and then production's when you're putting it together in the aftermath. Well, that philosophy, I didn't know it at the time, really holds true for commercial cleaning and probably for any business for that matter. So what does that mean? Pre-production. You're out there, let's say you're starting a new account. Okay. What are all those things on my checklist that I need to do? What are the alarm codes? What are the who are your contacts? What are the hours? Are you going to have your SDS books and all of that? Production is when it's happening and you're starting it up. And then post-production is the maintenance and continuation of that account. Now, that's a very minute, small example for a much larger company and how that principle would apply to a company. But I found that skill set works. Additionally, communication, right? Like
Absolutely.
communication has to be crisp, it has to be on point, it has to be immediate, and there can't be any room for interpretation. For example, can you go to this building and pick out the bathroom? Like, what does that mean? Go to this property, meet this person on site. Here's their phone number. Here's the time you could go. This is the exact spot I want you to take a look at. Text me a picture, report back. Is
Right.
there an issue with the dispenser? If so, what's the solution to fix it? You see the two different ways of communicating in what's better. The ideal world, you want everyone in the right seat on the right bus.
Yes.
Right? That's like the ultimate goal. Are you in the right seat on the right bus? If you're not, like, how do we fix that? That happens, and it's about looking at somebody's positives and their strengths and saying, okay, this person really excels in this area. How can I give them more of that or utilize it? And it's also recognizing, yeah, this just isn't going to work. Let's cut our losses right now
Yeah.
because not every situation works. But it's fluid. And if you're the kind of person or boss and you're like boom, 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 and you don't have flexibility, I don't know that this industry is going to work for you. Well, or anyone for that matter. Like you have to really, things change frequently in our industry. And as far as managing people and building culture, you have to keep your eyes open, one, again, to make sure you're really encouraging your teammates, everyone's showing up. If you do have that one like spoiler, we'll call it, like the rotten apple, get them out. You don't want them poisoning the wells.
First
Right.
commercial contract was a gym, and we got that gym because we cleaned the house of the guy who's the general manager. So that's how we got the account, which if you residential cleaners are listening to that, all of your residential or all of your homeowners, at least one of those people probably works in an office somewhere. So don't be afraid to hit those guys up. That's how we got the account. The challenges with it were the cleaning itself, Tim, wasn't that bad. It wasn't fun cleaning. It wasn't that bad, but it was the hours. So now at the time I had a full-time job as a telemarketer. I was doing business to business telemarketing during the day. And then I would leave that job and I would go do like post-construction cleaning. And then at 10 o'clock, that was the earliest we could start. So at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I'd be cleaning that gym 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And my goal, I was just inside of me, everything within me was like, if I can get done at like 1:45, I can hit up that Taco Bell for fourth meal. And man, the devastation of being stuck in there beyond 2 a.m. or if that Taco Bell closed at 1:50 like they would do sometimes was almost the same as I felt when I broke that clavicle. It was just emotional.
Tragic.
Just so sick and tired. But yeah, the hours were difficult. The scope of cleaning is so different than an office. If you're cleaning an office like you or I are in right now, like nobody's cooking in here, nobody's taking showers in here. Like it's, the gym, people are sweating all over the place, right? It's like some of your coworkers are probably sweating all throughout the day, but it's just a much easier clean, air conditioned. You're not dealing with crazy humidity of showers or steam rooms, those types of things. So the professional office environment for sure at this point for me is my that's what I'm desiring and not looking to hit the fitness centers back up anytime soon. You got to bet on your own ability, bet on your own talent, bet like I can figure this out. You're going to have to take some leaps. For me personally, I remember this buddy of mine, we went rock climbing, like real small kind of mountain thing. So not something big deal, but I remember at a point though, he was like he's kind of stuck, trying to figure out, go here, go here. He's like, I can't really figure it out. And literally the dude just saw a spot and he jumped on the rock and just grabbed for it. Of course he's harnessed in, right? So if he doesn't get it, there's a safety net and he jumped and he just grabbed it. And I just always stood out to me. Like sometimes when you're building your business, there are some moments where you're going to be like, gosh, you got to take a little bit of a leap here. And again, not something, risk, again, he wasn't risking life and death to do that. He's going to, he's got a harness. He's going to swing down a little bit on the rock. But he went all in on that jump in front of people. It could have looked foolish if it wouldn't have made it. But he could have had a little bit of an injury, swinging down and hitting the rock. But there's going to be times definitely where you just have to say, I got to take a risk. I got to bet on myself, believe in myself that I can figure this out. And I got to go a little bit where, a little bit nervous, a little bit uncomfortable here, put some pressure on myself and just believe I'm going to win. And sometimes you will, and sometimes you won't, but you still have to maintain that, you can take those calculated risk chances where you're like, I'm all in for the season. And, I think that's what it's going to have to take for you to get to the higher levels of success in the industry for sure. Something I said earlier, lack of clarity, no vision, no core values, no mission, and really bad leadership. And when you're the owner and your criticism is really bad leadership, you're just looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And so there was a time where and again, Tim, my wife was out of the business at this point. I'm running it on the side. I'm doing other stuff, because I didn't want to be Josh the janitor. And in that season, I really felt like God spoke to me, and he's like, almost like, come on, dude. And really what he said to me is he's like, just go all in here. This is exactly the way I heard it. Just go all in here. Like, quit trying to like make this something on the side, and you're not putting any of your gifts and your abilities and like the special talents I've given you. You're not putting any of that into this. Put it all here and just see what I'll do with it. And I reluctantly did that. I was, oh God, didn't want to do it. But we were getting ready to shift from one manager to another manager. And I was able to see at that time, I was like, if this doesn't go perfectly, I'm going to have to dive in and save the whole thing, because I had the most kind of institutional knowledge of all the things that were with the business. So, oh man, I want to do that. And so, it's like, all right, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to run it. And with the idea that like, just to bridge the gap. And then when I did, I went in and I uncovered all sorts of things that were reflective of my poor leadership and my not watching it, not caring, and not loving people enough. I saw all these flaws and cracks. But I did know that God told me to go all in, and I brought my wife back. It was both of us. We're going to go in, and we're going to ride this thing and figure it out. And we lost right after that happened. I started seeing the cracks, and we literally lost 25% of our revenue in like a 6-week time period around Thanksgiving to Christmas. And so going all in, and God saying, go all in. That was like, I went all in, and then 25% of our revenue lost, So I was like, I'm a phenomenal leader, and God has led me great. But reality of the situation is that is when our core values were born. That is when I looked at our business and I was able to identify, I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. Like I came up with 7 things that really bothered me about it. These things are ticking me off, dude. And I was like, what's the opposite of those things? And I wrote down 7 things, and that was our new core values. And I sent a message. I call it the New Year's 3. I said this message to all of our team, every single person that worked for us. And I was like, hey, I need to ask your forgiveness. There are so many problems with this organization, and that's my fault. So my plea is for your forgiveness, and my promise is that this is not going to happen again. And I told them, here's our core value. Here's the data. Here's where we stand. Here's the data. And we had a lot of our people leave because they wouldn't reflect, some of them just hadn't been led well. We didn't, my fault, but the core values didn't reflect who they were. And so we also lost about 25% of our people.
Wow.
So, but that turned into this time period where that year, so from 2000, so that next year, so we lost 25% at the end of that year. Our growth from a calendar year perspective, that next year was 6%. Our revenue grew 6%. And I was so stinking proud, Tim, because we lost 25%.
Yeah.
So we had phenomenal growth that year, and we're rebuilding and we're bringing people on we started bringing the right people on because you know why? They were able to see that this was the right place for them to be because the core values are documented and reflected within the way that things was run. So God took that moment and he just totally blessed it. But it created a rock bottom kind of moment for the business. But that I've heard it said, hey, rock bottom was a really firm foundation, right? So from that firm foundation, we were able to lay the core values, and we were able to lay down like what we've built since then. And at this point, our business has multiplied about 6 times since that time period. So God has blessed it. We've become an organization that as leaders, we can be proud of. For me personally, I stopped caring about being Josh the janitor. I was like, well, no, I might daggum wear a t-shirt that says it, brother. So from an industry perspective, we just believed God, and we had faith, and we worked. And there's still trying times, of course there were, but man, we worked our butts off, and God blessed the work. And we worked our butts off because we believed that he was going to do something with it. And he has, man. And it's been such a blessing, not just for us, but we've allowed us to also be a blessing to others through the organization. And honestly built something that, again, we are extremely grateful for, extremely proud of, and don't take the credit for it. Right? We did the work that God asked us to do, and God blessed it.
I work with a bunch of people that, we have a team of people that really focus on this, and we have a group, we get together once a week and talk about things, all of that. And really you win the deal at the walkthrough. Right? A lot of people think you win it at the bid, but you really win it at the walkthrough. And the reason for that is I don't know what I don't know as the customer. But when I go through a walkthrough, what are the things that I don't know that's going to help me with my business? Anyone, and I mean anyone, can mop a floor and can spray a desk and wipe it. Anyone can do that. And that's just, using the supplies or using the product. Not anyone can clean properly, effectively, and from a health perspective. And more than that, it goes, your service, green, and health. And then the next level is risk reduction. So you're in the risk reduction industry. People, planet, profit, sustainability, right? Sustainability is about risk reduction. So you walk into that building looking at it holistically. So I just went through this today with a coaching client. So you walk into the building. What's the first thing you should do before you walk in? You look at the front and you say, okay, there's no outdoor matting. Okay. You walk in the second. Now, is there any matting in the foyer? Is there any matting as you walk in? Yes or no, right? So you're documenting this. You're looking at the fact that there is no matting and there's dirt penetration in the floor, right? You look at the floor pad and there's powder on the floor pad, right? That meaning the floor finish isn't adhering, meaning that as they're burnishing, it's coming off the floor, it's going into the air, and it's on the floor pad because there should be nothing really on the floor pad, right? If you're burnishing, so there's all of these things are impacting health, productivity, cognitive function, all of these things, and we all know fragrances, VOCs, right? All impact health. So if you're walking in, you're identifying all these areas. The vents, right? How many times do you look up and the vents just filled with hair and stuff? So there's all of these things, and it's all contributing to the impact of the people in the building, to the environment based on the products you're using, and then the outcomes of those two things not running effectively is an impact on profits. Maybe it's sick days. Maybe it's lower productivity, all those things. So that's really what the business you're in. And if you can get away from whether you're selling supplies or selling services, and you're selling health, you're selling sustainability, depending on your perspective and the size of the account, then what you can do is you can change the game, because most people don't recognize it. Let me give you an example. You're doing a walkthrough and you notice they have chemicals. All right. Now, number one, is the chemical labeled properly? Okay, those little things like that, because now they're running regulatory compliance issues, right? But there's little things. It's like, okay, what's the pH of the general purpose cleaner they're using? Now, many people have a sledgehammer to kill a fly. So I'm just going to give a great scenario that would be obvious, but an obvious one. So you notice that they're using a product. You document the product and you do your research. And you see that product has a 13 pH. See, what are you cleaning this product for? Well, we're clean the walls and clean the lockers and all these things. See, okay. So, but if you could put that person or make them recognize that you can do the same thing with a 10 pH product, and that now means you've reduced their liability, their exposure by 1,000 times, that's a different conversation. And so there's lots of little things like that all over the place. All over the place. And so if you can identify all the areas in the processes that they're doing that are impacting negatively, then when you have when you give a presentation, when you do the walkthrough, when you're doing the conversations, you're pointing out things that no one's pointed out before. And they go, wow, okay. As opposed to the person just quickly looking around, doing a tape measuring and giving the price, right? And so that's easy. Anyone can go around, quickly look around and give a price. It takes a person that has the identity of a professional who has spent some time and educated themselves on it, so that they can then add that knowledge to that end user and grow their business. And who isn't interested? I mean, I've never met anyone ever, when I say things about improving indoor air quality, health and safety, protecting employees, that said, that's not important here. We've all gone on a date with someone is not really interested in getting to know you or the person, right? They're just interested in something else. And then there's a person that's interested in getting to know you. And what's the difference there? It's the aura, it's the manners, it's the questions they ask. If no one's asking anything about you on the date, where you grew up, whatever, they're not really thinking anything long term. Right. So on the walkthrough, in the meetings, you're asking questions that help them. Now you got to remember, if you're talking with the CEO, you can, at the end of the day, when we're in sales, we have to impact the income statement. There's only 5 sections of income statement: revenue or sales, cost of goods or service, gross profit, expenses, net profit. Most people spend their time on expenses exclusively. All right. Oh, you spend $10,000 on office equipment. I'll save you 10%. So you've saved them $1,000. Okay. But how can you help them produce, make the building healthier? So there's more tenants, there's less sick days, all these things. Those things are hidden, but they impact the cost of delivering a service. Mm-hmm. And so the difference becomes on the revenue, right? It's top line. A lot of people don't know this. Income statement is top line, and the bottom line is the bottom line. So when anyone says it's all about the top line, it's all about the bottom line, they're talking about the income statement, and that's the language of business. So everything we do, how can we impact that income statement? And that person you're selling to or talking to, they are either directly responsible for the income statement as a CPO, right? Or a manager is still directly responsible for that income statement, but maybe only on a smaller area, maybe just for that building, maybe just for that region. But that's where they're all responsible for. And they're trying to have a conversation with you to help them save on their profits, right, on their income statement in the expenses area. And so most people have a conversation about doing the cleaning cheaper to save them on that small little piece of expenses and that one line item of cleaning costs. And I'm encouraging you to have a conversation to show them that this is very marginal. You're spending $30,000 a year on cleaning, and I'm going to ask you to spend $35 with me. I'm going to ask you to spend $40. But here's all the things that are taking away from your income statement, or taking away from your profits. If I can show them, that they can keep employees reducing sick days by, like 46% in some cases. Right. But people don't equate cleaning with it. It's how we frame it. How are you framing the conversation, right? When you talk to them through the questions, are you framing it that you're just a cleaner? Or are you framing it that you're here to help them improve the health, safety, and of the building? And it's a completely different conversation. Completely.